We see all our heroes clinging to consciousness. Everyone begins to input their destination. Everyone but Kakarot. The Saiyan, having taken the most damage, before even being able to put in the last digit, passes out, meaning he's heading somewhere completely different, and he doesn't even know it. With all ships launching into space, no scouters to communicate, the group's separate until later on. Hopefully, they'll all survive. And let's tell all of their stories. The prince, after setting his coordinates, falls to his knees. The battle took a lot out of him, and he needs a minute to catch his breath. He starts thinking to himself, wondering where he could make improvements, not only with himself, but his skills as a leader. He's been sat at the top of the food chain for a while amongst the saiyans, but over time, the low class have begun to catch up with him, scratching and clawing their way up, while he sat comfortable at the top. It annoys him, thinking that they could even possibly surpass him if he doesn't start training like they do. The one that annoys him the most, though, is Kakarot, the leader of the low class, and even worse, a genius in terms of battle, and even out of battle, the Saiyan shows some smart ideas. However, the worst bit for Vegeta is he doesn't even hate him. In fact, he respects the hell out of Kakarot for coming up from a weak kid who could hardly hold his own in a one-on-one fight, to now being someone who's able to fight toe-to-toe with Vegeta. Vegeta thinks how next time he gets a chance, and after they've defeated Frieza, he wants to have a true, all-out battle to the death with Kakarot. However, like he already thought, Frieza right now is their current goal. Vegeta goes to sleep with this thought in mind. As a week goes by, Vegeta spends the time planet hopping, only stopping when he needs to. Eventually though, he arrives at his destination. Upon arriving, Vegeta can tell that this planet is weak. Even without a scouter, the inhabitants can hardly hold up a fight. And he even kills a few people, just to warm up his body. After all, he's had to hold back his desire to fight. And this has brought the strongest person on this planet to him. Vegeta, moments away from destroying a city, gets shouted at. He looks over and sees Tarble. His brother looks fuming. Tarble, clearly frustrated and pissed, shouts out to ask Vegeta why he's killing them. Vegeta explains how he has been cooped up for a little bit and needed to wake up his body. This was just the most interesting way to do it. Tarble is angered by this, but he can't stand up to his brother. After all, he knows the strength difference, even from when they were kids, so he stands by and continues to argue. He asks why Vegeta is here, as the older prince goes on to explain how he is here, and the other surviving Saiyans are going to show up soon. They're planning on overthrowing Frieza, so they just needed to spend some time on this planet training to get ready to do it. Tarble, hearing this, is scared for the people of this planet. He tells his brother that the people here have never hurt him, and they aren't a threat, and in fact are even friendly. Vegeta scoffs, realising his brother hasn't changed a day since he's been separated. All while Tarble thinks the same thing about Vegeta in silence. The two stand there momentarily, trying to figure out what to do. Vegeta contemplates just killing his brother, but thinks that having another Saiyan around to train with, at least until the others show up, would be beneficial to some degree, even if he is a weakling. Whereas Tarble is really unsure of what to say. A part of him is happy to see Vegeta again, but he doesn't want any harm to come to the people of this planet. So, he thinks for a while, understands his brother doesn't care for the people of this planet, and he comes up with a plan. He shouts out, saying how he will offer to train with his brother, be used as a punching bag as long as Vegeta promises not to hurt the people of this planet. Vegeta, hearing this, thinks on it for a second, then accepts. Tarble, not quite sure what he's got himself into, but knowing this was the best way to save these people, is happy this worked. Vegeta grows a smile as he shouts out that their training starts now, but before Vegeta can even move, he is hit by a Gallic gun. Tarble, having already expected this, sent his brother flying across the planet, and miles out from any nearby city. As Tarble chases off after Vegeta, having managed to catch him off guard, his older brother is almost proud, but he's quite pissed off as well. They break out into a fight out in the middle of nowhere. Tarble, being so weak, is put down almost immediately, and Vegeta is unimpressed. Tarble shouts out for his brother to not hurt anyone, but Vegeta already planned on keeping his end of the deal, So he just starts working out in his own space. Slowly, Tarble gets back up and they begin training once again. Much like before, Tarble goes down very fast. This becomes a bit of a routine. As time starts to pass, Tarble's able to keep up with his brother better and better. Even though Vegeta is getting stronger, Tarble getting all of these Zenkais is really growing and catching up. When the two aren't training, they rest at Tarble's house. The pair actually began to bond somewhat over this time, becoming a bit more brotherly as saiyans can get anyway. Vegeta starts to make Tarble more Saiyan-like, giving him a will to fight, a desire to grow stronger. However, this is through the threat of his death and the planet's destruction. At least near the start, these were true statements. But the Saiyan starting to connect with his younger brother begins to have his soft side pulled out a little bit more, and this becomes more of a bluff than anything. So Vegeta starts to find things about the planet he likes. He finds the aliens useful for their food, some of their tech's pretty good, even their medical care's not that bad. But when he and Tarble are injured, the aliens heal them up. Even though they are terrified of Vegeta, they still help because Tarble asks them. The brothers bond over a few weeks. Tarble loves the fact he and his brother are connected, and Vegeta tries to hide it, but does enjoy Tarble's company. Now, after a few weeks, basically being a month, they are soon joined by another Saiyan. Vegeta is interested to see who will be the first to arrive, and when Raditz steps out of the ship, it is pretty interesting for him to see that he made it here first. Vegeta shouts out for Raditz, who is annoyed that he seems to be the first one to be back. As he approaches, Vegeta introduces him to Tarble. Seeing the Saiyan for the first time, and realising he is nothing like Vegeta, it makes him laugh. However, he can tell that Tarble seems stronger than Vegeta had let on. He introduces himself, and Tarble greets the long-haired Saiyan in a friendly manner. This catches Raditz off guard, and makes him think of his mother slightly. And while calling thought, Vegeta asks Raditz where he has been, and what he has been up to. As he seems stronger, and even a bit more confident, Raditz laughs a bit, as he goes on to tell his tale. Raditz's ship is the last to leave, as he sits around patiently trying to figure out where he wants to go. After thinking it out for a while, he wants to find somewhere to train, but somewhere where he'll be able to stay off the radar. So he thinks about all known planets he can think of, and there was one he remembers reading about a while ago, but he's not sure how beneficial it will be to him. This was a planet he and Kakarot had actually used in the past to get some training in with their Great Ape state, so he knows it's useful. So that's where he's going to head, as he puts some coordinates in his ship and shoots off into space. After a few days of travel, he arrives on a planet, and instantly he feels the gravity increase. The planet he chose has some benefits to it. For starters, gravity is only slightly weaker than that of planet Vegeta, but the other great benefit is this planet has 3 moons. Raditz's plan here is to train his body, and also possibly master the Great Ape state in only 2 months, because that's all the rations he has brought with him, and that's how long he has to do it. Of course, there are some animals and some water he can live off for a while, but other than that, the planet has no intelligent life, and Raditz plans to not stick around for long. After all, the moment he gets back to the others, the more effective his training will become. Raditz spends some time resting, then he gets to training. He begins to work out his body slowly. Thanks to the gravity, it's very beneficial, and once the full moon shows itself, he begins to train his Great Ape state. This is his training method for the next 2 months. He will spend some time working out and training his body, but most of his time will be spent training up his Great Ape state. Slowly, ever so slightly, he begins to inch towards getting control over this form, and after 2 months of pushing himself hard, he's not managed to control it, but he's now able to aim where he goes in a Great Ape state. More so direct the rage and the attack he's about to do, not so much control what's going to happen. He thinks for now that will be good enough, and if he gets to the planet and the others are there, they can show him how to do it much better. So, after deciding he had got strong enough and bored of this planet, he heads off to the planet that Vegeta told him to meet up with. And once arriving, we already saw this part. With both Tarble and Vegeta hearing this, Vegeta is interested to see what Raditz is able to do. and interested where he stands in comparison. So the two, without much being said, break out into a fight. This takes Tarble by surprise, having thought that they were friends, but he sees now that they're more like enemies. And as he watches, he's surprised. The low-class warrior that he had heard about, Raditz, is fighting toe-to-toe with his older brother, and Vegeta isn't holding back. The pair are fighting all out. You see here, Vegeta wasn't caught off guard. After hearing that Raditz had been training, he wasn't going to allow the lower class to catch the better of him, so he didn't underestimate him. But the power Raditz is showing is incredible. In fact, it's equal to Vegeta's own. The pair are fighting on completely level ground. Vegeta isn't sure what to do, but he keeps fighting. The battle rages on for a long time, even going to when its night is setting, with Vegeta only just pulling out a win by knocking Raditz out. However, the prince himself is hurt badly and basically drained of all of his ki. Tarble had just stood and watched the fight unfold in front of him. He's amazed and can't believe that a low class just fought the prince that. As he approaches his brother checking in on him, Vegeta scoffs, saying how he's fine, but tells Tarble to grab Raditz. He'll be staying with them until further notice. Tarble nods his head, grabbing the bigger Saiyan, as they all head back towards Tarble's place, with Vegeta weakly following along behind. Now, after the battle, the pair get some rest, and they get back to training. However, the change here is the training becomes more so for Raditz to control the Great Ape state, but thanks to him having already sort of mastered it, now he's getting trained properly by Vegeta. It only takes them a few days to do so, and with those few days done, they soon get back to normal sparring matches, where Raditz gets to see firsthand what it looks like when Vegeta cares for someone. You see, over the sparring time, Raditz will get to see Vegeta sort of tutor his brother, but also kind of give a crap about him. This leads to Raditz eventually mocking Vegeta a bit, realising that the prince has got somewhat soft. However, Vegeta retorts, saying how Raditz is always worried about Kakarot. This leads to the two breaking out into an argument, which happens a lot. But over time, the pair slowly start to enjoy one another's company, but neither will admit it. Soon, time begins to pass, and they continue on with their training, with weeks soon turning into months, and there has been no sign of the other warriors. Faster than ever, 5 months have passed since Raditz's arrival, and the group are slowly starting to come to terms with the fact that they might be the last warriors, the last saiyans. As another month passes, their fears are proven wrong. As a ship approaches the planet, the group watch in anticipation, and out walks Nappa, who walks proudly and with a smile. He sees the other saiyans and approaches. Raditz is obviously annoyed it wasn't Kakarot or Turles, but is somewhat glad to see that they aren't the last saiyans. Vegeta sees Nappa as the pair share a smile, as Nappa then approaches saying, "Seems like I'm not the last Saiyan to arrive. Knowing the low class, they all probably die." Vegeta stares at Nappa, making him flinch and stop what he's saying. Nappa is confused, as Vegeta just stops him from mocking the low class. As Nappa sets his eyes over to Raditz, who looks a mixture of pissed and worried, while staring Nappa down. The big Saiyan doesn't get why Vegeta spared Raditz's feelings, but he then locks eyes with Tarble, and before he can even open his mouth, Vegeta asks Nappa what he's been up to. Nappa's confused at what the hell's going on, but decides to explain. We see Nappa putting in the coordinates for a planet he knows will be safe. The Saiyan hides out there uninterrupted for 6 months and a bit, and he spends some of his time training, but slowly he grows more and more and more and more bored. He wants to do some destroying, but this planet has no life except some beasts he's been living on and some water, and that sounds really dull to him. So he decides that he's going to go off and destroy one of the planets nearby. He knows there to be a Frieza planet, only a day's trip away. So, after some thinking, he sets his sights on the nearby Frieza planet. He decides that he has to reason with himself why to do this. First of all, he knows Frieza hasn't got a clue where they are, and the second of all, he wants to steal himself some new armour. His armour is still very heavily damaged after the battle with Q, Zarbon, and Doria. So this is his reasoning. And then he heads off, with him thinking to get the others some new armour as well, expecting their armour to all be pretty banged up still. So as he approaches his new planet, it takes him about a day. Upon arrival, he jumps out of his ship, not even taking a second to land it, knowing it will land safely, and fires off an attack, destroying a good chunk of the base. He then begins to battle with Frieza soldiers who can hardly hold him off. After getting a Zenkai and healing up, and with some more training, he is one of the strongest soldiers that Frieza would have had if he was still on his team. This puts the base into high alert as Frieza soldiers swarm him, but the Big Saiyan is able to brush through all of it easily as he slowly makes his way into the base, finding an armory and collecting some armor for himself and the others. He then spends an hour destroying the rest of the base and killing off any Frieza soldiers he can find, but he then realises that he needs to leave before any backup arrives in the shape of the Ginyu Force or possibly even Frieza. So, he kills a few more soldiers and makes his way back to his ship. Upon arrival, he sees that his ship has been unmessed with, in the same spot he was expecting it to land in. He hears something off in the distance, assuming it to be more Frieza soldiers, but doesn't think too much of it. He moves his armour inside and then heads back to the planet he had been hiding out on for the last few months, with him then spending a day or two there before heading towards Tarble's planet. Everyone is amazed at how stupid Nappa was, as they scan the skies quickly to see if they can spot anything, to make sure he wasn't followed, while Vegeta screams at Nappa for being a moron. The Saiyan explains how he wasn't followed, and the others don't feel confident. Raditz and Tarble rush inside the ship and begin to tear the ship apart quickly. Nappa's confused and kind of annoyed that they don't trust him, but after a few seconds of digging, Raditz pulls out a panel and finds a tracker inside the ship. Raditz screams out to everyone, knowing that this is one of Frieza's trackers, and Nappa goes pale, while Vegeta's urge to kill Nappa rises incredibly. But he shuts it down, knowing that Frieza is now on the way to this planet, and Nappa has essentially doomed all of them. He might as well go down fighting, trying to save them all. Vegeta, thinking fast, shouts out, giving orders. "We don't know how long we've got, so we need to be ready. Tarble, grab the armor and hand it out. Raditz, you and Nappa go keep an eye out for anything we aren't expecting. Be quick, go!" Everyone hearing this nods as Tarble runs around handing out some armor, most people getting the same armor as they had before, just getting a better of an upgrade and replacing their old damaged ones. But once this is done, Raditz and Nappa rocket out of the ship, destroying the roof of it as they scan the nearby sky, Raditz chewing out Nappa the entire time, while Nappa feels like an idiot and also is terrified of the incoming threat of Frieza. Vegeta then turns to his younger brother and is about to give him some orders, when Tarble stares his brother down, telling him how he's going to evacuate the nearby city. Vegeta thinks this is a stupid idea, explaining how the planet will be destroyed if they aren't all together, but Tarble explains how there is a chance they'll win, and any friendly fire could kill these civilians. Vegeta goes to argue back once again, but Tarble just stares his brother down. Vegeta's annoyed his brother is this stubborn, but comes up with a compromise. He tells Tarble that he has until Frieza actually arrives. He'll fire off a key blast to signal it. Tarble thanks his brother for compromising, as he rushes off, about to evacuate as many civilians as he can, as both Raditz and Nappa scan the sky. Vegeta, once seeing his brother fully gone, turns his head towards the sky himself. Everyone is waiting for Frieza to appear. At first, a couple of minutes go by, agonizingly slow. Soon an hour passes. Then 2 hours. 3 whole hours pass before anything is spotted. But then, both Raditz and Nappa spot what they've been looking for. Frieza's ship entering the atmosphere. The pair, seeing this, blast off at full speed towards Vegeta to give him a warning, but the prince had also already seen this. Seeing the ship land in the atmosphere, they all get ready to fight. Nappa and Raditz are confused at where Tarble is, but Vegeta just scoffs, not saying anything. The ship lands a couple miles out, and they all fly towards it. Soon, they see Frieza exiting his ship, followed by Jace and Berta. Vegeta's really confused, as he expected that when Zarbon was killed, Ginyu would definitely take a place as one of Frieza's right-hand men. So now he has no idea what's going on. Seeing the Saiyans, Frieza laughs, and goes on to say, "Ah, it's good to see you again, monkeys. I must say, very clever trick you made on me. However, I caught on rather fast, of course. It did help that one of your own came to me and attacked me in my own home." This confuses all of them, as Berta then chuckles, throwing down a set of destroyed Saiyan armor. Raditz recognizes it straight away. It's Turles' armor. Raditz looks up, demanding to know what Frieza has done. "Well, you see, that Saiyan showed himself a few months back, tipping me off to the idea that you clever little monkeys weren't all together. Then he claimed, like many others, that he would kill me and stop my reign of terror, and that he wouldn't need saving like he had in the past, and will win with his own power. Things I've heard before, but his power was something you monkeys should never be able to achieve. He held a power level of 325,000 in his base state. Of course, this was no match for me, as he soon fell to my power. Then I personally tortured him, hoping he would try to save himself by selling your location out. However, he refused to share anything, repeating how he wasn't strong enough, but the others will be. It's funny, really, since he truly believed in all of you. But seeing you all now, I guess you'll be joining him in hell. Raditz, hearing this, snaps, powering up and firing off a blast out of pure emotion and rage for the loss of his best friend, shocking everyone, including himself. The blast flies towards Frieza and the tyrant doesn't move, standing still and letting the attack connect. A massive cloud of smoke erupts as Jace and Berta read the power level of Raditz, saying out loud 90,000. This annoys Raditz, who watches the smoke as it clears, showing Frieza to be fine, but his chair is destroyed. The Emperor looks at the Saiyan, asking if that's the best he has to offer. He should just keel over and die now. It'll be a lot less painful. Before those words are fully left Frieza's mouth though, a small blast flies past Frieza's head, exploding behind him. The Emperor looks down and sees Vegeta having fired the attack, who's laughing to himself. He asks the Prince for his power level, as Jace laughs, saying how his power is also 90,000. Frieza can't help but laugh at how small their powers are, with him even finding it funny that the low class and the elite are at the same point. However, Vegeta smiles as a purple blast then hits Frieza in the side of the head, causing the tyrant to be moved a couple of inches before he manages to stop it. As he stops the blast, he looks over to see the youngest prince, having fired off the attack. The young Saiyan looks nervous, but smirks slightly, as Frieza laughs again, looking towards Vegeta saying, "If that was your grand plan, I am really in no danger." As he sees the ground beneath him glow, and Nappa flick upwards, Frieza then gets flung upwards even though he blocked the attack. This attack hardly does anything to hurt Frieza, but it gets him airborne. As Vegeta then appears above Frieza, grabbing the Emperor's tail, but the tyrant has no time for this. With Vegeta having grabbed his tail, he wraps his tail around Vegeta's arm and then flings the Saiyan towards the ground, and within a second Vegeta's body bounces off it, as Frieza dusts himself off, explaining how, "I don't have time to play with you monkeys, so I advise you choose to kill yourself now or die slowly by my hands." Vegeta laughs, which is then joined by the other Saiyans, as Vegeta goes on responding to Frieza. "Me and every other Saiyan here would rather die fighting than cower to the man who killed an entire race out of fear of us." Frieza's face almost goes pale before he responds, laughing, asking who told them. Was it Zarbon or Dodoria? As Raditz speaks up saying how his father knew and had sent him a message. He had been training day and night so he could kill Frieza. This makes Frieza look at Raditz really hard and realises why his brother looks so familiar, remembering Bardock, laughing how he tells Raditz the story of how his father tried his hardest to save his planet, but was really no match for him. It's ironic how the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, how he will die in an attempt which will ultimately fail to kill him. Raditz is angry as he rushes Frieza, throwing a barrage of punches at the Emperor. He dodges them effortlessly, as Raditz continues to throw everything he has at Frieza for a few moments, before a shout from Nappa is heard, with the same brute saying how he's ready. This confuses Frieza as a white ball flings into the sky. Nappa shouts, bursts open and mix, and Frieza knows what's going on. As he shouts out for Jace and Berta to do something, he looks over to the pair, seeing they've already been dealt with. Berta was killed, and presumably so was Jace. Frieza then kicks Raditz away as he fires a blast towards Nappa. However, it's too late. The Saiyan's power has begun to increase, and so has his size. Frieza, already knowing the power he's up against, goes to destroy the power ball, but before he can even do that, Vegeta, still humanoid, starts flying up to Frieza and punches him straight in the face, causing Frieza to flinch temporarily, as he quickly blasts Vegeta away, but these few seconds he gave the others was more than enough time for them to fully transform and swarm Frieza. They begin to throw attacks towards him, trying to rip him apart with coordinated attacks, and not long after, Vegeta joins in. Having fully transformed, they are now on top of Frieza and not giving him an inch. Frieza is getting obliterated, and for a few seconds he truly believes he won't get a chance to fight back, but in a last-ditch effort, he fires a blast towards Vegeta, hitting him in the eyes. This causes the Prince to trip backwards slightly, and causing him to knock over Raditz, who then gives Frieza an opportunity to shoot a blast at Tarble, who Frieza knows to be the weakest, leaving just Nappa. So Frieza flies upwards, outspeeding the giant monkey, and he then begins to transform, and his power rapidly increases. Tarble collects himself first as he fires off a blast with Nappa. The two attacks combine as they hit Frieza, causing a massive explosion which shakes the planet. But soon, something fast hits Tarble in the stomach, putting him to the ground, as Frieza is off his second form to the Saiyans in front of him. Vegeta and Raditz get back into the fight, jumping towards Frieza, as Frieza blasts Raditz, stopping his attack. However, Vegeta manages to get to Frieza, and uses his massive hands to clobber Frieza straight into the ground. He then begins to pound down on Frieza, throwing attack after attack after attack. A few seconds afterwards, Nappa joins in by charging up a mouth blast and firing it towards Vegeta. The Big Saiyan, seeing this, jumps upwards and avoids the attack, as Frieza gets hit by this blast, with it flinging him across the battlefield and into the arms of Raditz, who catches Frieza and begins to crush his tiny body in between his hands. The Emperor tries to fight back, pressing as hard as he can to try and escape, but Raditz refuses to give Frieza even an inch, and with their power being so close, Raditz is actually able to hold Frieza really well, not being able to hurt him too much, but he's squishing down hard as he possibly can. Frieza then, after a few seconds of trying to escape, tries something else, as he begins to transform once again. Raditz, seeing this, realises what's going on, tries to finish Frieza, as he goes to crush him as hard as he sanely can, but it's with no avail. Frieza manages to achieve his third form, where he easily pushes apart Raditz's hands, and then kicks Raditz straight in the jaw, sending the Saiyan to the edge of the atmosphere, almost into space, as Frieza turns to the Saiyans on the ground, saying, "I must say, you've pushed me further than I'm happy to admit, but consider yourself lucky. You are one of the few beings in existence to see this form, and it will be the last thing you all see." The Saiyans roar out in their great ape states, as Vegeta, Tarble and Nappa once again swarm Frieza. The Saiyans try hard as they can to hit Frieza, but they are just missing their mark every time. Frieza is easily able to dodge any attack coming towards him. Blast hits Frieza from the sky, as Raditz then lands on the ground, of course having fired the attack. And this attack actually caught Frieza off guard and does a small bit of damage, but the following explosion does some damage to the others around him, but obviously not that much. Once the ash has cleared a little bit, they see Frieza has only really taken a small burn from the attack, and this is enough for everyone to realise that Frieza has won this battle if they can't think of something quick. As the Saiyan group try to kill Frieza, all of them attacking at once, with Raditz joining in this time, they still can't hit Frieza. Their big size means that swarming up around him is causing some issues, and the Tyrant is starting to think how to kill the Saiyans, as he dodges, weaves and bobs as much as he can, having not thrown an attack in a while. After thinking it through for a few seconds, he thinks destroying their pride and smashing their hope would be the funnest shot, so he decides to do so. He quickly avoids every attack coming towards him, and then makes it to the sky, where he shoots an eye-beam towards the power ball, with this destroying it. The Saiyans, seeing this, decide before they shrink and lose this great ape buff, they need to get one last attack in, and hopefully it will kill Frieza. All the Saiyans jump backwards, coordinated. As they begin to slowly shrink in size and power, they all open their mouths and fire off the strongest mouth blast they can provide at this point in time. All attacks collide together on Frieza, but just as the attacks make contact, Frieza jumps upwards, easily avoiding the attack. The Saiyans then drop back down to their base state, and Vegeta turns to Tarble, screaming out for his brother to make a power ball. The small Saiyan, having already been on it, starts to form one, but just before he can throw it, a beam pierces through Tarble's hand, then his leg, bringing Tarble down to a knee and screaming out in pain. Not you being used to battles, only spars. This is true pain. He wasn't ready for it. Vegeta, seeing this, screams out for his brother, locking eyes with Frieza and firing off a rage-filled Gallic gun. This attack hardly grazes Frieza, who just laughs, knowing this to be the end of the Saiyans. Raditz and Nappa try to blindside Frieza, as the pair work together, throwing attack after attack after attack into Frieza's back, throwing punch after punch after punch, but nothing seems to connect well enough, and Frieza just sits there taking it for a few seconds before getting annoyed, as he turns around, slapping the pair away with his tail easily. He then fires a blast through both of them, one going through Nappa's chest, avoiding everything vital, but meaning the Saiyan can't stand, as he slowly starts to bleed out. Raditz pulls himself to his feet and gets ready to fight once again, but Frieza points 2 fingers towards the Saiyan and shoots a blast through both of Raditz's arms, meaning he can't even lift them. Raditz screams out in pain as well, as this hurts like fuck, with this leaving only Vegeta still being able to stand. Vegeta goes to fight Frieza, throwing attack and punches and everything he can think of, but can't even land a solid blow. After a while, Vegeta is out of energy and breaks down, thinking this to be the end, as he falls to the ground. Frieza's happy. He has truly destroyed the Saiyan's pride, and more importantly, he's made Vegeta cry like a bitch, as he laughs and starts floating into the sky, charging up a death ball, thinking to destroy this planet, as his men enter the ship and begin to evacuate the planet. And once they get out of the atmosphere, Frieza wishes the Saiyans a good time in hell. As the ball forms slowly in Frieza's hands, a sound happens above Frieza, as he is then hit by a giant fist, stopping the attack. Frieza gets slammed into the ground as everyone looks up and sees nothing. Vegeta then hears a familiar voice behind him, as Raditz looks over and smiles at the sight. "What's wrong, Prince? I thought the elite was supposed to be the strongest." Vegeta, looking around, sees Kakarot stood there, wearing a shit-eating grin, and also some really weird armour. Before he can ask Kakarot anything, the Saiyan turns around and looks to an alien behind him. He can't recognise this alien from anywhere, but the armour does look familiar, and it's the same one Kakarot's wearing. He tells him to go around and heal the others, get them out of combat and then get them back in. This fight's far from over, and from what he can sense, Frieza has a lot of power left to give, and he's not sure if their power will be enough. The alien nods as he puts one set of fingers to his head, and then grabs Vegeta with his free hand. He then appears next to Tarble, then Raditz, and finally Nappa, before appearing in a house in a city not too far away, where an alien family panics, but then sees who it is. Once in the city, far away from the battle, the alien introduces himself as Macro. He's a Yardratian, and is actually an acquaintance of Kakarot's, or more like friend, but Kakarot doesn't like that word. As his hands begin to glow while holding them over Tarble's wound, soon the Saiyan's injuries are gone, as he receives a small Zenkai. Vegeta has a plan as he shares it with the others. They all think it's a bit crazy, even Macro, but Macro smiles, saying how if Kakarot thought Vegeta would come up with that. As they all start gathering around one another, we go over to Kakarot. Over with Kakarot, he stares down Frieza, who looks confused, as he recognises the armour and pieces together everything that happened. "Ah, so you're the one who killed Ginyu on Yardrat. How interesting. But why go to a planet where you know someone stronger than you is?" Kakarot laughs. "I never went to Yardrat. Not an idiot, Frieza. By mistake, I ended up on a frozen wasteland of a planet. I should have died there. But there, I met Macro. He saved me from freezing to death. Of course, I didn't trust him at first. But once he explained to me that I was trapped on the planet since my ship was destroyed upon entry, I started to panic, thinking I would never get my shot at killing you. But then he offered to help me leave this hellhole, if I helped him. You see, he left Yardrat in hopes to find someone strong enough to kill the Ginyu force, and when he felt my energy crash on that planet, he came to get me, to save me, so I owed him one. Of course, I was more than happy to kill the Ginyu force, but I wanted something else in return. I know what the Yardratians are like, and they have some interesting tricks up their sleeve, so in return for killing the Ginyu force, I would be taught some of their tricks. And that was an easy trade to make. He healed me up, and then we waited, training in that frozen hellhole, till we could sense your favourite set of weirdos appear on his planet once again. After a quick trip to a planet with a moon, I transformed into a great ape and killed every member of the force except those two cowards over there, running away once their captain was killed. I guessed to get your help, but you never came, and it confused me for a while, until I could sense your spirit, and it seemed really weak, almost as if you'd been badly injured, maybe in a battle. Frieza grits his teeth and holds his chest. Kakarot laughs. It was Turles, wasn't it? He's the only one not here. Clearly he got strong enough to do something to you, and he came at you with everything he had. He hurt your pride and your body. That's why you never came to Yardrat for me. You was afraid of us Saiyans more than you have ever been. But you couldn't show that. Your men would stop following you. So I'm guessing you made an excuse, like how you wanted to make it a one-day trip. So you waited until all of us gathered in one spot. And when you figured out where that was, you came here. But you were scared, Frieza, weren't you? Weren't you, Frieza? Kakarot continues to taunt Frieza, as the enraged Emperor fires off a huge blast towards Kakarot, but the Saiyan puts his hands to his head and teleports around Frieza consistently, as Frieza then lets out a scream of anger, causing his ki to explode. Kakarot, noticing the power of Jace, teleports to it, which is a good distance away. The explosion doesn't even touch him, as Jace looks up, having woken up from being knocked out, seeing that Kakarot's here. He freaks and goes to throw an attack, but Kakarot just puts his foot against Jace's head and kills him there. As Kakarot then looks back to the battle, soon, Macro brings the others to him. As Kakarot then looks towards Macro, saying for him to get out of here. He's done his part, and he doesn't expect anything else right now. This is a battle the Saiyans have to settle, and they will do it alone. Macro's a bit unsure about doing so, but a look from Kakarot scares him into submission as he teleports back to Yardrat. Everyone, apart from Vegeta, is confused at why Kakarot did this, but the Saiyan just explains how he wants to win just the Saiyans. Frieza deserves to be killed by the hands of the race he fears most. As they shout out, "Let's avenge our race," the battle begins, and that's where I'm ending this part. I'm a jackass, I'm sorry guys. It won't hopefully be too long for a wait. And once I've done part 5, there will be a bit of a break. After all, I've been banging these out quite consecutively within a short period of time. And that's because I feel like the story was building up to it and I could do it without having to worry too much. I have a funny feeling that the next part shouldn't be too long. Hopefully it shouldn't be any longer than 20-22 minutes. But yeah, with that said, I do hope people enjoyed. I can briefly cover the idea behind the Yardrati and stuff, but honestly, I don't think that many people are going to say out about it, so there's no point. The only thing I will explain is Turles, who was able to do some bits to Frieza. Originally, when I wrote out this script, Turles was going to survive and be the heaviest hitter the Saiyans could provide, and if people haven't pieced together why Turles was so strong yet, well, wait until a later part where it will probably be explained better. But for now, I do need people to understand that he was better off dead, and it will hopefully lead to a much more interesting conclusion to this story. Now with that said, I do hope people enjoyed this part, and I hope everyone has a great day, a good night, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. I need to start doing like goals with effort, but so yeah, hope you all have a great day, good night, and see you next time.